I enjoy entertaining guests. On Tuesday, we invited a young couple from shul to come sit in the sukkah last night. Excited at the prospect, I went to the store yesterday morning to buy all the necessary accoutrement for the charcuterie tray. I bought cheese and nuts, smoked salmon and crackers, dried fruit and grapes, pickles and olives. It would be lovely. As I put the groceries away and started to think about the timing for getting it all ready, I glanced down at my phone. There was a text from our guests. A call from her elderly mother requesting help down in Chicago area meant they would have to cancel. "Is there another night that works?" she asked. "Of course," I responded. "How about Saturday night?" The date was set. It was disappointing, but I'm glad Saturday will work. We visited with the two of them at length after Sukkot services on Tuesday and are eager to continue that conversation. Guests in the sukkah are a thing. You are supposed to invite friends and neighbors to sit and enjoy. Last night would have been perfect. Full moon was peeking through the slats of the bamboo roof. The air was chilly, but not bad. It's exactly the sort of ambiance you want. Kabbalah teaches that every time we sit down to eat in the sukkah during Sukkot, we are joined by 7 spiritual guests called the Ushpizin. It's an Arabic word that means visitors, and these visitors are our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and King David. Later sources tell us to also expect a visit from Joseph, Moses, and Aaron. Together, these are the 7 righteous individuals you hope will pay a call during Sukkot. We have a children's book that the boys frequently ask to read called The Mysterious Guests. It tells the tale of 2 brothers living in the land of Israel, one named Eben and the other Ezra. Eben, the older brother, was filthy rich and stingy to boot. Eben means stone, and he lived up to his name. The younger brother, Ezra, was kind and generous, but poor as a church mouse. He too lived up to his name, which means help, by sharing what little he had with anyone who needed it. When Sukkot came around, the 2 brothers each set up their sukkahs. Eben's was magnificent. He used fresh juniper for the walls and had fragrant pine and juniper boughs covering the roof. Bowls of fresh fruit were set everywhere and also adorned the walls and hung from the ceiling. Meals were more like banquets with the finest foods and most luscious wines, all served on gold plates and silver goblets. Guests in Eben's sukkah were carefully selected from the richest families in town. He included politicos and community leaders who might be of personal help to him later. If poor people approached Eben's sukkah, he knew it was sinful to turn them away, so he'd make them stand in the corner and give them leftovers at the end of the night. He called it charity. Ezra's sukkah reflected his income. It was made from scrap lumber and wood saved year after year for this purpose. The roof was made with palm branches collected from the ground. He couldn't afford the best fruit, but he would buy overripe apples and pears at the marketplace, items that were ready for the trash, cut away the bad parts and try to arrange them so that the best side showed. And meals were simple fare: homemade bread, maybe some soup or fried potatoes. Ezra welcomed anyone who came to visit his sukkah. Poor, rich, or in between, all were welcome. Many of his guests knew of his financial circumstances and would bring potluck: a loaf of bread, salad, some yogurt, or flowers for the table. And Ezra always made sure everyone got something to eat. It was a joyful place. One night, the Ushpizin came to call. God sent Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob down to check things out. They manifested themselves as beggars in dusty cloaks and worn-out sandals as they stopped in every sukkah in town. The holy trio showed up at Eben's sukkah and, unrecognized, Eben quickly turned them away. "No room here, sorry." Abraham asked if they could stand in a corner and perhaps share a word or two in thanks for the hospitality. "Keep it short," Eben snapped. Isaac told of a sukkah that was gloriously beautiful on the outside, but rotten with selfishness on the inside. Then Abraham provided a blessing. May this sukkah's outside be like its inside. Eben was exasperated with these three strangers and asked what the point of the story was. Jacob told him to look around. Immediately, the fruit turned rotten before the guests' eyes. Black mold and white fungus appeared on the apples and grapes. Worms crawled out of the pears, and snakes and lizards swarmed the table as they burrowed into the bread. The guests screamed and fled. The three visitors, however, simply vanished. The next stop for the Ushpizin was Ezra's sukkah, where they were warmly welcomed and seated at the table. Food was brought to them, and they ate and drank. When finished, Ezra asked if they had a story or word of wisdom to share. Again, Abraham took the lead and talked about a poor man's sukkah that was filled with love and generosity. He treated even strangers like honored guests. Jacob pronounced the same blessing as he had when visiting Eben's sukkah, saying, "May this sukkah's outside be like its inside." Instantly, the fruits and flowers turned to silver, and the palm fronds and lumber turned to gold. Astonished, Ezra asked the men who they were, but it was too late. They had vanished. The story ends with Ezra coming into riches he never thought possible. His good fortune exceeded even the prosperity of his brother. And as for Eben, well, he had a change of heart and continued each year to build his beautiful sukkah, but he welcomed everyone who approached. That's the children's story that the boys love so much. And the lesson of the sukkah is that we remember what is important in life. Sukkahs are great equalizers. No matter how big or fancy they appear to be, the rain still gets in, the cold still permeates the walls. However large or fancy your house might be, that permanent structure of which you are rightfully proud, it's nothing but dust if there isn't joy and friendship, sharing and love within its walls. The Ark of the Covenant was built of acacia wood and clad in gold inside and out. Nobody ever opened the cover to peer inside once the tablets were placed in there. But the lesson of the Ark is the lesson of the sukkah. Whatever is on the outside reflects what is on the inside. If your heart is like stone, if you have no joy in serving God, eventually your exterior will reflect the rottenness of your soul. However, if you can live your life with joy, if you can find it in your heart to be a forgiving, generous, and kind individual, you will reflect beauty to others regardless of how society might judge your appearance. We build lives that we hope reflect our wealth, taking pride in our careers, cars, homes, and personal appearance. However, if we put our trust only in men and riches that can vanish in a heartbeat, we've missed the point. May your inside be reflected on the outside, and may that inside be beautiful.